Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple interesting things today. Actually, we're going to be a little bit all over the place because our guest today is done so many things and we have so many important things to talk about. Really, when I think about coming out of school, coming out of high school, what we have to make decisions. Well, we grow up going, okay, this is what I'm going to be, this is what I'm not going to be. I really love this. But when we get out of high school, either our parents push us to make a decision. You're going to go to college. Most of the time it's you're going to go to college. It just depends, I guess, how you grow up, right? And what your parents do, because they're going to push you to go to work. Today, actually, when they push you to go to work, you want to go to a trade school because there's huge opportunities in trade schools. College is not always the best bet. I was working with a company, the pipe fitters sprinkler union, and I found out these kids coming out of college, they have tremendous opportunities. You can go out of high school and go right in as an apprentice pipe fitter, and these guys are taking down $80,000 to $100,000 a year. I mean, when you think about that, you're going, okay, I could go to a 4-year college. Let me think this through. Incur $200,000 in debt. And come out and get a job maybe making $40,000, and you're struggling to get a job. When you can go in the trades and come right out of high school, go right in as an apprentice and start making some real money. And I've interviewed these guys. I've talked to these guys. I met a kid, 24 years old. I said, and we're just kind of casually talking. And I said, so what are you going to do this weekend? He goes, well, I have 3 kids. I bought 200 acres, and I got some horses and a great little ranch. So we're going to go spend the weekend out there. I was thinking, oh my God, 24-year-old kid, 200-acre ranch, he's living the life. And so it's pretty good because a lot of these kids coming out of college, they're trying to figure out what to do, trying to just afford to be able to get an apartment. And this 24-year-old kid's got a 200-acre ranch. So college is not always the best bet, but it is a good bet. So you can go to college, get the education if you have a vision on what you want to do. If you don't know what you want to do, you can learn right there in college. This is maybe you can take some different classes and learn things. But the most important thing is you're young. When you're coming out of school, out of high school, out of college, you can make mistakes. You can pivot. It's okay to do that. It isn't life and death at 20. And I actually love what's happening in technology today as well. Not just the trades, but technology. Kids in high school, kids right out of high school, are figured out a way to work the social media platforms and how to sell products. And these kids I'm not talking about 1 or 2 kids. This isn't hitting the lottery. I'm talking about thousands of kids across the country are knocking down $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, figuring out how to drop ship packages and sell products on social media. It's pretty amazing. It's a good time to be young today because there's so much opportunity. Now, that's a different kind of person. Some people don't want to take that risk. They don't have that entrepreneurial drive to do that, and that's okay. Then you can fit right into the trades or go to college and figure out what you want to do. But you've got a lot of opportunities, and all you got to do is do a little bit of research, and you can get there. And we're going to talk about those things. My guest today, he's made a lot of pivots, and he's made some interesting, fascinating decisions, and has built an amazing company. Actually, he's got multiple companies, and that's what's really cool, because we're going to talk about that entrepreneurial drive, how he got there. How do you pivot from some security and actually roll the dice in starting a company? And so we're gonna talk through those things too. And what's really cool is this dude was on a ranch. He was a ranch hand, and that's like, we're in Texas, so he was out in Fort Worth and doing the ranch thing, because when you think of people outside of Texas, they think we all wear boots and live on a ranch and wear a 6-gun. We're going to meet the guy that he actually did some of that stuff. I don't know if he wore a 6-gun, but we're going to meet today Beau French. Thanks so much, my friend, for being on.
My pleasure.
I want to step back to where you grew up and And that, what did you want to do as a kid? Because we all have dreams. What was Bo's dream? What did you want to be? Did you want to be a cowboy?
It not really, actually. I mean, the way it started for me as a kid, I was very blessed growing up. My father, I had an older father. My father was born in the 1920s, and he moved after World War II was over. He moved out to West Texas, to the Midland, Odessa area, middle of the Permian Basin.
God, I hope he bought a bunch of land because there's oil on those.
Yeah,
parts.
That's another story. But he turned out he did pretty well out there, and so I grew up really thinking I was just going to follow in his footsteps and be in the oil business, and then life happened, and it turned out I wasn't really in the oil business. So I went to an elementary school growing up that only went through the 9th grade, and a lot of people who finished that went on to Midland High School, and my parents pretty much just gave me the ultimatum. They're like, you can choose any school you want to go to but Midland High. So in other words, you're going away to school. So I looked all over the country at a few different boarding schools, and really a friend of my dad's had been to New Mexico Military Institute, and he's like, you need to go look at this school. He took me there, gave me the tour, and I thought, this is really cool. My dad I think both my parents actually, my mom went away to school a little bit when she was younger too, so that was just their experience. My dad had gone to military school when he was younger.
They thought that was important to get that as a kid.
Yeah, so I spent 3 years in military school and loved it, thrived there, did very well. I wish I had taken that lesson immediately to college with me, because I learned that a little bit of structure in my life was a good thing. And because when I got to college with no structure, it was not so great.
We all experienced those early college years.
Yeah. I figured it out eventually, but the military school was awesome. I had a great experience there.
So do you still have some friends back, relationships from back in that school?
Oh yeah. A couple of my best friends are from military school.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Any kids from Midland, where you grew up, actually go there?
Yeah, there were a handful of us who went there.
Okay, and so you weren't alone.
Was not alone.
In a new state.
And in fact, like when we were, we'd have weekends off or something, and we would go back to school. We would all meet up together at someone's house and then drive there together. So yeah, it was fun.
Tell me about your relationship with your parents. How was that to go? Okay, because that's pretty young to then go off to school.
Yeah,
but I guess I
was 15. I had great parents. I mean, my parents were loving, amazing parents. I mean, my dad was definitely old school. Like I said, he was born in the 1920s, and he was raised by really his grandparents. So he was very old school, but still an awesome guy, well loved. Successful in business, and just a great dad, and did a lot with his kids. I mean, we traveled a lot. We did a lot of things together as a family.
When you're given that important parent, place that you knew you could go to, mm-hmm. That's so important, I think, to have it. And I talked to so many guys and ladies that didn't have that, and it drove them in a different way to be successful and to make some interesting decisions in life. And so you went to college. After college, what did you do?
Well, I coming out of college, I just thought I was going to be in the oil business and go work for my dad.
Oh, okay.
And so that was the conversation. And my dad's like, absolutely, come work for me. I'd love to have you work for me. And so I get there, and kind of first day he said, okay, here's what we're going to do. He's like, you can spend a couple of days here learning a little bit about the oil business, but what I really want you to do is he had kind of taken money he had made in the oil business and invested in some ranch land. And he's like, I really want you to go work on the ranch.
Wow.
He's like, I want you to learn everything about the ranch. And it seemed like a good idea, but after a few years of primarily being, living in the bunkhouse on the ranch, just being a ranch hand, I was like, I kind of wanted to learn about the oil business, and I'm not doing that. And so yeah, we had a conversation after about 3 years. And when I say I was like living in the bunkhouse, I mean, truly, I was living in the bunkhouse, just one of the cowboys.
So what was your daily job on the ranch?
It sort of depended on, the season, whether we were, calving or fall works or whatever. But
so y'all had cattle, though?
Oh yeah, it was a cattle ranch, and it was old school cowboy stuff. I mean, there were times where you'd be like in a saddle at 4 a.m. and not out of the saddle until 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that see that fantasy.
Yeah.
Right. Doing the cattle run and doing all those things
Well, there's been a whole resurgence of like that just on television with some of the shows that are being produced out of Fort Worth now.
All right, how did you go to your dad? Tell me about those.
Well, after about 2 years, I went to him and I said, Dad, listen, this is not working out. He was paying me $25,000 a year, and I said, Dad, this is not working out. I need to do something else. And he's like, well, what if I raise you to 35? Will you stay? And so I agreed to stay. But after another year, so I'd been there about 3 years, I said, Dad, I really feel like I need to go do something else. I wanted to learn about business.
Yeah.
And at the time, he was more wanting me to spend time on the ranch. And I think he was, I don't know if it was maybe punishment for bad grades in college or what it was, but
did he want to grow the cattle business? You think could that have been or is it a real flourishing thing?
I don't really, I don't pretend to know what his motivation was. I just know that we saw things differently. I like a lot of young men do with their fathers. We saw things a little bit differently, and so and plus I had friends who were already advancing their careers in the big city.
Yeah.
And I thought, I need to go do something like that. So that's so I made the decision to.
Did he approve that?
He wasn't happy at first.
Yeah.
And to try to talk me out of it, and he was pretty unhappy with the decision. I think he felt maybe a little betrayed at the time. But after I started doing what I moved to, he was really proud of.
All right, so tell me
did.
about that.
Yeah.
Tell me what you did.
I had some friends in the financial service industry, specifically working for investment firms, hedge funds, which in the mid '90s, who even knew what a hedge fund was in Texas? I mean, that was maybe if you were in New York, you knew what that was, but not in Texas. And but it just seemed really interesting to me. And I always kind of had a math brain. I was scored higher on all the math assessments than the verbal assessments. My mom wanted me to go to law school, and I was like, Mom, like you see the scores here, like maybe be an accountant or something, but not a lawyer. And so I just went to my friends who I knew were in the business already, and I said, introduce me to your boss. I want to talk to them about working here. And so I met a couple people in the business. No one seemed really interested in hiring me. These were all smaller businesses. But one guy, I was just very persistent. I said, listen, I will come work for free. Just give me a few months to come work for free. And after a few months, if you decide that I'm valuable, then we can talk about it. And he agreed.
Wow, that's pretty good.
He actually, that was my pitch. He actually came back and said, look, I'm not going to make you work for free. He's like, I'll pay you something. And so he was generous in that way. But then after a few months, we sat down and decided, no, it did make sense for me to stay there, and I was at that company for 8 years.
What was that? What did you do to spark that in him to want to keep you?
Well, I really wanted to learn, and I was willing to work really hard. I mean, there were weeks where I had 100-hour weeks, and I think just that level of commitment just shows you that if you work hard, you can do almost anything.
See, that is so important. Now, were you in love with this business that you were working 100-hour weeks? You were going to do what it take to. In the 20s, when you're in your 20s, you're like, sometimes we're blind and we're just going to work hard. I don't know if I love something or not. Did you really like what you were doing?
Yeah, it wasn't that I was so in love with the business. It's that every day I was around brilliant people. Mm-hmm. And in the 90s, some of the smartest people in the country were working at hedge funds. This was the leading edge of just the investment world. Right. And I think historically that had kind of been maybe investment banking, obviously brilliant people in that field as well. But this was kind of like a new and maybe even more was attracting more people, because I think there was maybe more upside or more opportunity for more people to participate in that. And so just working around brilliant people motivated me.
How big was this hedge fund?
When I started, it was about $200 million. Mm-hmm. And then when I left 8 years later, it was $5 billion.
Wow. Yeah. That's enormous growth.
Yes.
In 8 years.
Yes. Yeah, the whole industry experienced a lot of growth also, just as it became more popular. By the mid 2000s, everybody knew what a hedge fund was. But when I started in the
Right.
mid '90s, not many people knew what a hedge fund was.
So that was a great time to
Yeah,
make that.
the timing was very
move.
good. Yeah,
And you made hundreds of millions of dollars, and now you're. No, I'm just kidding.
right. A billionaire.
You're a billionaire now. Everybody we have on this show is a billionaire.
I like to say I identify as a billionaire.
Yes, of course. So those were some great times.
Yeah, it was a fun time. The '90s, Wall Street. Even though we were in Fort Worth, Texas, it was a great time because all the people, we had direct lines to all the the trading desks and the floor of the exchange in New York, and so I developed really good relationships with people in New York who came and visited us all the time. And
They probably loved to come to Fort
they
Worth.
loved coming to Fort Worth because
Yeah.
then they had it. That was back when they could have expense accounts and come, wine and dine their clients.
Yes.
And they'd get to Fort Worth, Texas after having paid New York prices for, fancy steakhouses, and we'd take them to, Joe T. Garcia's or something.
Oh,
and
perfect.
they'd get the bill. They're like, wait a minute, I can't turn this in. I'm going to get in trouble for not spending enough money.
That's funny.
It was really funny.
Did every one of them want a pair of boots and a hat?
They always wanted to, do something in the stockyards or see something about, make it Texas. Yeah.
That's so fascinating how you found this niche in Fort Worth, Texas, that had a drive from people in New York wanting to experience that. And the 90s was before technology came in and just completely upended Wall Street. That was were you there when that big transition happened?
Yeah, I mean, we went from yes. I mean, when I first started, the guys on the exchange floor were still using pieces of paper and writing orders down, and then taking those orders and handing it, to the traders. And so it was just a very different time. And then we saw the transition as they started to, get electronic, these little pads where they would do it electronically, and then there was the advent of just all the computerized trading, which really took drove the commission structure. The main reason the expense accounts went away for a lot of these brokers is the commission structure went from, when you were paying, 8 cents or 10 cents or whatever for every share you traded.
Yeah.
And that went down to fractions of a penny.
Oh my God.
It's just disappeared.
Well, is there even guys? There's not a trading floor anymore, is there?
No, it's a TV set for the business channel now.
Do you feel that the industry has lost something, not having the trading on the floor anymore?
Well, look, a lot of that was relationship based, and when we traded stocks, the portfolio manager would come and say, "Hey, why aren't you trading, this order with this particular firm?"
Yes.
And I was like, "Well, because I have a relationship with this guy over this other firm, I'm actually going to get a better deal." And so it was very, very much relationship driven.
Okay. All right. So you were there for 8 years, and something happened. It's time to make.
Well,
a
I
pivot,
think
or what
I
happened?
had worked for this other. Look, I was young and single and had been there 8 years and was doing very well financially. So were some of my coworkers, and we decided we can just go do this ourselves.
Why risk it and go off on your own?
Yeah, no, I look at one of my close friends who sat right next to me on the trading desk, and he stayed there.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think he's still at that company, and he's done very well because he continued to advance in his career and move up the chain and get paid more and more money, and I took a lot of risk. So yeah, he had a lot of safety. I took a lot of risk, and I just felt. One, I liked the people who I'd teamed up with, and so I had confidence in my partners. And I grew up my dad was kind of an entrepreneur, right? So I had that entrepreneurial drive, from the time I was younger, and I just thought it's worth it. If it doesn't work, I can always go back and get a job somewhere else.
Yes.
But this is a risk worth taking because if it works out, I'm gonna have more independence down the road. And not initially, because when you start your own business, you actually work way harder than you do when you're working for someone else, as you know. But yeah, I just felt like this was a risk worth taking. That there was more upside and then more freedom down the road.
So you start this new company. Y'all start rolling. 2005. I know there's something big. There's a storm a brewing.
Man, that was the mid 2000s was a crazy time on Wall. I mean, the 90s was a fun time on Wall Street. The mid 2000s was a crazy time on Wall Street, right?
Yeah.
You started seeing, there was a tremendous amount of growth that was following kind of the big tech, run up of the early 2000s, and then the tech bubble, and then the things that sort of came out of that, and all these investment firms started putting together these more complex packages of collateralized debt, as they call them. They were packaging more and more stuff up, and more people were making more money. And there were people who saw it coming and started preparing. I had some friends who actually created funds to sort of take advantage of what they saw as kind of this imminent collapse.
We're talking about 2008.
Yeah.
So talk me through what that was like.
Well, I mean, just as a hedge fund manager, we actually, our whole strategy was, the firm I started at in the mid-90s was a very conservative firm. And so we took that with us. We were very conservative. We were not taking big risks. We were what we call market neutral. So kind of our whole pitch was, if the market goes up or down, it's not going to matter. We're gonna figure out how to make money no matter which direction the market's going. And so it was a very conservative fund. So we were not promising these huge returns. We were promising very conservative returns. And like a 10% year would have been a good year for us. And of course there are hedge funds that do 40% or whatever, but they're taking much more risk and a lot more leverage and all of those things. So we didn't want to do that. There's people, there are lots of. We were just trying to give people a different option.
Yes.
And man, when Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns and all these businesses started going under, it was like, what is going on? These are institutions that have been going for over 100 years. It was nuts.
Yeah, to be able to see Wall Street implode like that.
Yeah.
You guys weren't affected that bad.
Well, I mean, we were.
Tell me about that. How you then transitioned to currently where you are today.
Yeah. So just in a nutshell, we actually performed okay. I mean, there were lots of hedge funds that were down 50% in 2008.
Are they gone today? Most of a lot of these guys.
Well, it depends on how. A lot of them were gone. I think we went. I don't remember the numbers now. It's been so long, but I think we went from something like 8,000 hedge funds down to 4,000 hedge funds, or something like in America. So yeah, there was a big culling of funds. We ultimately closed down because our investors. We only had a couple $100 million under management, and but about 75% of that was 3 investors. And all 3 investors came to us in 2009 and said, "Congratulations, you were our best performing fund.
Yay.
However, we got killed elsewhere and we need our money."
Wow.
So we went from, being a couple $100 million down to, call it $50 million. And my partners and I looked at each other and it was like, well, we can't. It's hard for us to justify paying our employees out of the management fees at that asset level. Yeah. And our prime broker, who was Goldman Sachs, and they were telling us, hey, listen, you guys are going to have a really difficult time raising money because you're only $50 million. And after what just happened, no big allocator is going to want to put money in a small fund, because that's just it doesn't matter what your track record is. That seems risky. And they're going to want to put money in these, $5 billion funds, because they're never going to get fired if a $5 billion fund goes under. They're going to get fired if you go under, and which makes sense. I mean, I get the herd mentality there. So ultimately, we just decided to close it down in 2009, and I had my childhood best friend and one-time roommate. Was talking to him, and he said, "Hey, I'm looking at some kind of interesting things. Maybe we ought to just team up and work on these things together." And so that started in kind of late 2009, early 2010.
Okay, and that's where you are today. You run not a fund, but what do you call it? Your group?
Well, I normally just tell people I'm an investor because people understand that, but really we have a fundless private equity and venture capital model.
And what I'm really fascinated about, we're just going to dive right into this because you have a drink company, and you started this company, I guess, with some friends.
Yep.
To support veterans, which is fantastic. But you still you're launching a company. Tell me about that risk that it took to go, okay, we're going to take this capital and we're going to roll the dice on this company. Was it a risk?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was a total risk, and it was absolutely a startup. It wasn't. This wasn't us buying another company or something like that. This was totally a startup. Some guys came to us and said, "This is our idea. Can you help us do this?" And we brought in some people we knew and raised a little money and put the idea in motion. And really it was, the idea was to give money back to veterans. I've been very blessed in my career to work with a lot of really amazing veterans, a lot of Navy SEALs and Green Berets, and just people from the kind of the special operations community anyway. And so this really hit home for us. We've participated in a lot of charity events and helped put on some charity events. And if you come to my office, there's still some former special operations guys working in our office. Lots of guns laying around. It's very much a Texas kind of office. So we definitely love that kind of thing.
What was the thought? What do you do when you're first launching a company like that?
Well, I think what attracts you is this a way for us to make money? That's the initial calculus, right? Is there an opportunity for us to make money and for everybody to make money, and then do the mission, which in this case was giving half the profit to a veteran charity. And so
but there's so much competition, and it's a water company, right? And y'all have bottled water. It's a mission-based water. I don't know if there's another one of those around, but there's a lot of water companies. So when you're first taking a look at this, what was it about that story? Did they bring you numbers? Did they, if somebody is looking for investment, what do they do? What do they come to you?
Well, so really it was more an idea about the brand and less about the initial product. Bottled water was really just our first product.
Oh, okay.
The idea was to grow it beyond that. So we actually have coffee now also, but with water, that wasn't even our first idea. The first idea was to do kind of like an energy drink or something like that.
Interesting.
And so we were meeting with then CEO of a prominent beverage company, who, they frankly committed. They were like, "We love this idea. We want to just help you do it." So really, it was we thought we were going to have the backing of a major corporation behind us, and. But the conversation was, why would you do an energy drink when you can just do something that everybody consumes?
Water. Every day we drink a lot of water.
We thought, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. He's like, then you don't have to worry about, flavors and all the marketing stuff that goes into that. He's like, everybody's buying water. So that's really how it started. It was just that simple.
So the guys that brought it to you, obviously, they were military guys, or ex.
Yeah, well, so the two guys, one not military, one former Green Beret, Silver Star, amputee, amazing guy and dear friend, and they came to us and said, this is our idea. How can we do this? And we truly want it to be a company that gives half of its profit to veteran charities. There's lots of companies out there that claim that they give money back, and they do. They give like 1% or 2% or maybe 5% or something. Or they're veteran owned, and so they get a lot of attention because they're veteran owned. And so it seems like it's this veteran, and they do. Again, they give, 1 or 2 or 5% or something like that. But our whole idea was right out of the gate, we just want to commit to giving 50%. Mm-hmm. And if it's successful, great. We're going to give a lot of money to charity. And if not, well, we tried. And so we're kind of in between those two things right now, but it's I love the idea. Yeah, I love helping veterans, and the guys who are involved in the company love helping veterans, and so it is a passion, and that is the mission.
So when you look at the numbers, and you had to go out and raise money for this.
We did,
right? Those investors. Yes, do they care? Probably greatly they care about veterans. But they also going, I'm going to put my money in. Show me how, that this is going to I'm not going to lose my money. Yeah. That is the thing.
So we did that, and we had a great plan, and we had a very clear pathway to how the company was going to be profitable and pay investors back. And we were kind of getting near the launch process of the product. And this was 2018 or 19, 2018. And the company, I told you that we were talking to the CEO of a big company. They were going to help. They were going to essentially do everything for us. They were going to produce it, distribute it, all of that. And so we actually did not raise very much money for that. That was a very small deal because, we had this company showing us the numbers, like this is going to be profitable on day one. And then that company merged with another large company, and they immediately shut off all new deals.
Wow.
And so all of a sudden, here we had already invested. Not a lot of money, but it was still, we had invested other people's money. in this business. And it was like, wait a minute, they're now not going to do what they've been telling us they were going to do this whole time. What do we do? And so we had to decide, do we want to just fold shop, or do we want to actually try to pursue this endeavor on our own? So then we actually brought in a new CEO, and we started looking for distribution deals on our own. And so we've grown the business. It's
how tough is that? I mean,
well, that was much harder.
Yes.
That was much harder than what we initially planned.
Yeah, because now you're in direct competition with probably the same guys that we're going to.
Well, but there's really nobody competing with that particular business, because there's nobody doing exactly what we're doing.
Right.
So it's we felt like, I mean, our competition were the other consumer packaged goods companies that aren't giving money to.
Well, that's
to
what I
those.
mean. Do you see in your business, because this is what I find so important, there's ways to build mission-based companies. Yeah, like you said, a lot of people go, but they don't understand. They don't really how to make it a real mission-based company, like y'all's is.
Yeah.
And when you say that, nobody else is in this space, so it should be a simple decision. For the consumer, yes, I can buy this or I can buy this.
Yeah, same product, same taste, same bottle, same everything. This one gives its profit to that corporation, and this one gives its profit to
It
veterans.
shouldn't be an argument here.
No brainer, right? And that's what we thought. We thought people are going to love this product.
But you got to get it on the shelf.
It's much harder to get it on the shelf than you think.
And which is so difficult, as you said, but it's also that story. It's getting the world is a big place. And how do you beat through the clatter of all the other consumable products that people are trying to get you to drink every day? How do you touch that
Well,
person?
and the big corporations control so much of the market, right? So they control a lot of the distribution. They control the shelf space at whether it's a convenience store or grocery store. So it is a very difficult market to get in. And there are some other people that I've met through this process who are really good at getting products into grocery stores and things like that, because they've demonstrated that they can do that. But for someone to just start up, it is really difficult. I mean, we struggled a long time trying to figure out how to do all that.
Are you guys getting some distribution
Yes,
now?
it's the business is doing better now and growing, and
Okay.
but it was a struggle there for a while.
Are you in the grocery stores?
Yeah, we're in grocery stores and convenience stores.
Okay, so tell me the name of the product.
So it's called Live to Give.
Live to Give.
And like I said, it's primarily the bottled water, and so you can get that in. So here in Texas, for instance, it's in all the HEBs.
Oh, great group.
Yeah. Look, HEB is a great company. They have done a lot for veterans. They do have very specific sort of veteran focus, anyway, and so they've been a good partner for us.
So really, in this particular case, you created a business from a story.
Correct.
Here's a story that we believe can have some legs. How important are the numbers? How important if a guy says, well, I got a great story. Now, that's a pretty hard pitch to just some investors. Wouldn't you think a story? Or is a story okay to bring in?
You never know what's going to pique the interest of an investor. There have been times when we thought we had the best idea in the world, and literally no one was interested. And we're like, wait, what is, you just never know what it's going to be, So, we look for deals. We try to find deals. Some of them have been very exciting to investors. Some of them have not. And, that's why we do a lot of deals, because you just never know what's going to work.
That's fascinating, because I, as an entrepreneur, and I make television shows, I think I've got the greatest show in the world. I go to a network and they're going, everybody's going to love this thing. Yeah. And they go, well, who is everybody? Who are these everybody's? In some companies like the television networks, they look at a TV show, and if it is too risky, and I say by risky, if it's going down a path that they're not traditionally comfortable with, they like to follow the leader. There's not a lot of leaders in that business. How is it in the investment business and just general business? Do people like to go, okay, yeah, everybody's doing this thing, so we'll do that? Is that how it is? Because that's how it is in the television industry so often.
Yeah, I mean, we try to find businesses and deals that we think we can bring something to the table. It's not just that it's a good deal. It's not that there are lots of good deals out there, I think. And I think in this economy where there's going to be even more opportunity. But what we really try to focus on are deals where we bring something to the table, where our expertise, our collective expertise among our partners, we can really connect this business with another business that we're involved in or something like that. So when we take it to an investor, we're like, this is the reason why. If someone else brought you this deal, it may not be as good. But because we're bringing you this deal, we're going to be able to bring these things to the table. And
fascinating.
So really, that's the magic sauce for us.
You're an actual partner. You guys go down this path and you use your tools. So do you like a guy that comes to you with a fully blown concept package? I'm running this company. Or do you want somebody that's more like, I got a story, I got an idea, I need some sharks to, excuse me using that pun, to help drive this thing, right?
Yeah, I think we're sort of agnostic on whether it's a founder who's already started a business or someone who just has an idea. I mean, obviously the terms are going to be a little different on an idea versus an ongoing business, but we'll look at anything and consider anything if it's within our wheelhouse. I mean, there's obviously deals we wouldn't look at. But
is money readily available today?
I mean, there's been so much wealth created in the world that, there is a lot of money. I think we tend to focus on smaller deals. Not, there's plenty of private equity firms out there doing huge, hundreds of millions of dollars and multi-billion-dollar deals. We're a much smaller. We focus on smaller deals.
What is that? What are those numbers?
I mean, the last deal we did was a $5 million deal.
Okay.
So the one we just closed.
Anybody out there, 5 million under, this is Bo's cell phone number, and you just call them direct because they got a lot of money and they're going, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, again, we go raise that money. So,
yeah. Okay.
We have people I kind of have a Rolodex of people who have invested with us before and kind of know what we do. And so, just go back to the same old people and dip into the same well again.
How fun is that, though, to be seeing deals and opportunities coming down the path every day?
It's awesome because there are they're brilliant people out there who've started some amazing businesses or who've captured some, niche that someone else hasn't thought of. And so I love looking at those things. It really is a learning experience. And, you get to the point where you kind of figure out what, that's a neat business, but do I really want to be involved in that business? Do I really bring anything to the table? Could I help that grow more than some other private equity firm could or something like that? And so that's usually kind of how we look at it.
Do you find working deals and being partners in companies, is that more fun for you than kind of just, running that hedge, being involved in a hedge fund?
Well, like I said, it was just really stressful, especially, coming through the financial crisis when, we had, first of all, just the inter-portfolio dynamics were so extreme. There were, we saw movements that we had never seen before. And so just being there staring at the screen every day was unbelievably stressful. But then, and the amount of uncertainty that went along with that. But then, every one of our investors would call us every day. And so you would spend hours on the phone. This is what happened. This is what the portfolio did. And, because they couldn't just withdraw their money. You could only withdraw, I think we had quarterly withdrawals with a 45-day notice. So, if it was the 27th of the month, they couldn't say, oh no, we want it out, at the end of the next month. They had to wait a whole another, quarter. So, that was just stressful, I think. Sure. And like having to deal with all that. Now it's one company and it's easy for someone to, they're happy getting a quarterly update about what this company's doing because they know that it's on this trajectory. Like, hey, here's some good things that happened for the company. Here's a new contract that they got, or whatever the case may be, and that's just an easier concept, I think, for people to wrap their head around. And it's not subject to daily fluctuations in markets or anything like that. So it's just easier.
All right. So, say I'm the young, small, and can I be young, old, whatever? I'm the entrepreneur that wants to go off on my own. I got an idea. I want to start a company, but talking to investors, talking to a fund like yours, not a fund, but a group like yours to help is intimidating. What do we have to do? What do I do to get that meeting to go, I've got this idea and I think it's going to be great and we're going to sell it to everybody in the world?
I think probably the easiest, what is going to make your life so much easier is just accept the fact that if you're looking for people to put money into your business, you're going to have to give up a lot of your business. And I think a lot of founders and entrepreneurs have a hard time. They're like, well, this is my business. I mean, yeah, I want to raise money and, I'll give you 5% or something. No. People are going to want half your business or more.
Wow.
And so that's just, but look, if you're young, and this is going to be the thing that's going to help grow you from being a young entrepreneur into a, 35 or 40-year-old multimillionaire where you can then go start something else that you own more of, then you should do that.
And I appreciate you spending this time to talk to entrepreneurs about, your journey, and hopefully they're learning, right, some things. And don't be scared to go talk to a group like yours. If you want to raise some money, to go, you have that idea. In your particular case with the water, it was a story that drove everything.
Yeah.
Right?
That was a total startup.
To make a difference. And so anyway, I love that. And I appreciate you so much for being here and being honest and coming straight forward and telling us about, from your childhood to where you are today, and that you're having fun. We didn't talk about golf because you're going to give me a couple strokes next time when we get on that golf course.
That is not the deal we made.
I heard about your golf swings, but we're going to get out and tee it up and hit them. But something very important we need to talk about, because I always do, our little furry friends that keep us warm and fuzzy at home. That little creature, that kitty cat or that dog that jumps up in your lap when we're, it's cold today out there, but they keep us warm and really keep us sane. It's so important to let's don't forget them. And as I say, one of the most important things when that dog looks up in your eyes, don't just take them for granted. Really take a second. Take 10 seconds, 15 seconds just to look in their eyes, because what they're doing is you're like their parent. When they gaze into your eyes, that is a powerful thing for them, and it's actually a powerful thing for you. You'll get probably more out of it than you think if you do that. And when you walk in at home and their tails are wagging and going, or that kitty cat's just rubbing against your leg, don't fluff them off because you had a hard day and try to go do whatever you're going to do. Take a minute. Get down on a knee. Don't just look down on them. Get down on a knee. Let them snuggle with you. They've been waiting for you all day, or even if you just went out to the store for 10 minutes. It's like you've been gone all day. They don't know when you're coming home. But take a minute, get down on that knee and give them some love, because they give us so much in return. Just know that. And so support your local shelters and get your dogs and cats spayed and neutered. It's so important. And I'll get off my soapbox, and we're going to say bye to Bo, because Bo was so important today to us. And do you have pups at home?
I do. I have 2 dogs at home. I grew up with dogs and cats and all kinds of animals. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the message there. Yeah, you're right. They give you that look. You can't just ignore them. You got to give them a little love.
Yes,
yeah.
And your kids, it's so important for them, right?
Oh yeah, that's a huge thing. I have 4 young kids, so having animals around is awesome for them too. It
teaches so much, and we don't understand, we don't realize what that unconditional love, how it affects our kids. It's a valuable tool. I can't stress it enough. If you have kids, you get them a pet, because it's truly can be life-changing, and we'll get into that in a whole nother story. But Bo, thank you so much. It's been great to have you here.
So fun. Thanks for having me on.